Hey everybody, let's get to crafting. In this first DIY, we start with 4 Dollar Tree picture frames and some wood letters from Hobby Lobby. And the first thing I do is I remove the backing, the insert, and the glass from each of the frames. And then I take these 4 frames and give them 1 coat of white chalk paint. And then I go in with this barn red apple barrel paint and give them 2 coats. Now I painted them white first to act as a primer, so when I paint them with the red, it'll show better than if I hadn't primed them at all. Now while that first coat of paint is drying, I have these wood letters and they come in 2 in a pack, which it works great for the L because I'm spelling out the word fall. And then I go in with that same barn red color and I give these letters 1 coat of paint. So then I have these 2 sheets of scrapbooking paper from Hobby Lobby and I use the glass from the frame to trace and cut the paper down to size. So then to assemble them, I replace the glass, insert the scrapbook paper, and replace the backing. Then the next thing I did was just use a little bit of hot glue behind each of the wood letters and then place it on top of the glass. I didn't worry too much about the hot glue cracking the glass or anything. This seemed to hold up pretty well. Then to embellish this up a bit, I use these Dollar Tree sunflowers and I just grouped them into 3. And I used a little bit of hot glue and attached it to one of the corners. And then in a minute here, you're going to see a little bow that I had made using some jute twine. It was just as simple as tying your shoes, very simple bow. And then I hot glued that down as well. And now we'll see how this turned out. For this next project, I have this wooden pumpkin from Dollar Tree, and I'm just taking my butter knife and gently removing that raffia bow. If you have any leftover glue from that, you can just easily sand that off with your sanding sponge. So then I have my Truffle chalk paint by Waverly, and then I mix that in with a little bit of water to create a stain, and I go over just the outside portion of the pumpkin. And you will see as I go along painting this, or staining this as you would say, I paint a section of this and then I immediately wipe it with a rag, just so that you can still see that wood grain show through. Once that is done, this is what it looks like. Then, again with the scrapbooking paper from Hobby Lobby, I place my paper strategically on top of my pumpkin and use my fingers to rub along the edges to make crease lines so I know where I can see where I need to cut. Now, I say strategically because I know I want those chevron stripes pointing down in the center of the pumpkin. So then when you flip it over, you can see those perfect lines and you can see exactly where you need to make your cuts. Then with some Mod Podge and a paintbrush, I do a thin coat on top of the raised part of the pumpkin. Now you want to be sure to do a thin coat to prevent bubble up on your paper. I didn't do a second coat on top of it because I didn't feel it was necessary. Here I'm just taking that same truffle paint as before, only not watered down this time, and a smaller paintbrush, and I am just going along the edges just to give this pumpkin a little bit of dimension. Then I use the mini mums from Dollar Tree, and I love these because they already have these tendrils or curlicues as I like to call them, but they really are pretty. So I just clip a couple of them off. But what I do first is I just take a little bit of hot glue and I glue these tendrils down. And then I have a little bit of greenery. I glued that down on top of that, and then on top of the greenery, I thought I was going to use 3 flowers, but I thought one ended up being just perfect. So here I have these Jenga blocks, and I want to be able to make sure that my pumpkin can stand up on its own. So I just form an L shape with the Jenga blocks, and using a little bit of hot glue, just put it down into place. And I actually use a third Jenga block and just to create a wider edge for this pumpkin to be able to stand on its own. Now let's see how it turned out. For this next DIY, I have one of these boxes from Dollar Tree, and then I have this fall box from Dollar Tree that says pumpkin spice on it. And what I did was I cut it apart, and then I'm just going to flip it over, add some hot glue to the 4 corners, and then I'm going to put it into place. And then the last thing I do is I made this simple little bow using the green burlap ribbon from Dollar Tree, tied a little bow, hot glued it into place, and I call this project done. For this DIY, I start off with using this Easter sign from Dollar Tree, and I use my screwdriver to remove the sawtooth hanger from it, and then I go ahead with my Truffle chalk paint by Waverly, and I gave this 1 coat of paint. Now I made sure to get the back side, the sides, the top, and even the sides inside the box. Next, I take these wood letters that I had gotten from Hobby Lobby in their fall section. It was $3.99, but with everything else, I gotten them for 40% off. Then I use the Harvest Orange paint by Apple Barrel, and I go ahead and give this 2 coats of paint. Now before painting this backside, I go ahead and take my sanding sponge and remove all the glitter. So once the paint is all dry, this is what it looks like. And the next thing I'm going to use is this card that I had found. Now this is really beautiful, but I just wanted to use the bottom half of this because I ran out of the shiplap scrapbooking paper from Hobby Lobby. So I'm just kind of using what I have. So what I do is I just place the card inside of my box, and then I'm just using my fingers to kind of fit it into place, making a crease line with my fingers, and then I know where I'm supposed to cut. And now that I see that I have cut it perfectly and it fits just fine in there, I'm going to go in with some Mod Podge. I remove the card, and then I actually do a thick coat of Mod Podge on this because, again, this is card and not scrapbooking paper, so I want to make sure that this sticks. So next I have this garland from Dollar Tree, also in their fall section, and I just go ahead and unravel it. Next, I have this garland from Hobby Lobby, also 40% off. It was $5.99. I got it for 40% off, just like all their fall stuff. And I really love this because it had burlap leaves around it, and it said it was garland, but then I kind of started snipping away at it because I wanted to just use pieces of it. It fell apart. So I guess maybe this isn't really garland. I don't know if it's like supposed to be like a candle ring. I don't know. But anyway, I started taking a couple pieces off of it and I just make it work. So what I'm doing here is I took my painter's tape because I like the size of it, and I'm just kind of wrapping the garland around it. I'm using the painter's tape as like a frame, I guess you could say, wrapping the garland all the way around it just until my eyes are happy and I like what I see. I add in the garland from Hobby Lobby, and then once I have that all together, I just took some floral wire and I just tied the garland together. Once that is all done, it's now time to attach it to the frame. So I'm just going to go ahead and use this orange gingham print ribbon that I had picked up from Hobby Lobby. It was $1.99, but it was 50% off, so I got it for just $1. This is so pretty, and I just took just a strip of it. I slipped it through my now made wreath, and I'm just going to add a little tiny bit of hot glue to the very top of the frame and then a little bit on the back. And now for our thankful sign, I'm just going to attach that to the wreath with just a little bit of hot glue. The last thing I do for this project is I just take that same ribbon, tie a cute little bow, and then hot glue it into place. For the final project, I just took this Hello Fall sign from Hobby Lobby, and you guessed it, I used my 40% off coupon. And then I go ahead and take some Elephant Gray chalk paint by Waverly, and I gave this one coat of chalk paint. Then I take some white foam core board and my pizza pan. Please don't judge. This is a really old pizza pan from like a decade ago, but I like the size of it. So I just place it on my foam core board and my pencil and I trace around it. And then I use my box cutter to gently cut this out. Once my circle is safely cut out, I just go ahead and I take my ruler and I make some shiplap lines, not really worrying about how wide I make my lines. I just, I eyeball it. Then using some elephant chalk paint and a small paintbrush, I go ahead and paint over top of these lines. Now, I don't bother waiting until this paint is dry. I go over top of these lines with some Waverly white chalk paint because I wanted this to be painted anyway, but I go over top of the painted lines because it kind of gives like this a natural distressing look and really helps it make a little bit more like wood. Now to really make this have a more of an aged wood look, I take a little bit of antique wax, mix it in with some white chalk paint, and I do a little bit more distressing. Now keep in mind that foam core board does curl up as it dries when you're done painting it. So what I did was once it was done being painted, I flipped it upside down and put something heavy on top of it for a few hours, and it kind of flattened itself back out. So as you can see here, I'm using some of that hot glue to attach my Hello Fall sign. Then I'm taking this Dollar Tree ribbon and I'm going to go ahead and make myself a bow. So I just fold one end over top of itself, creating a loop, and then I fold it again. Then I'm going to cut that, hot glue the ends together, pinch it in the middle, and then tie it off in the center with some jute string. Now I'm just going to take some extra ribbon and I'm going to cut some tails for my bow. Now this is not a bow tutorial. There are definitely better ways of making a bow on YouTube. You can just search those, but this is the way I did this one and it still turned out really cute. Now I'm just taking this eucalyptus I had picked up from Walmart a while back and I'm just attaching it with some hot glue, and I lay this down first and then I'm going to go in with those same mini mums as earlier in a previous project, and I'm going to lay those on top of that, and then I use some other eucalyptus. I believe that one also came from Walmart, and these this greenery, the floral department over at Walmart, is actually very, very inexpensive. So I definitely recommend, if you cannot find anything that you're looking for over at Dollar Tree, I recommend going over there because they have some really beautiful floral. Then once I get the flowers and the greenery glued down, I go ahead and attach my bow. And then I take one of the white pumpkins, also from Walmart, and I hot glue that to the center of my bow. The last thing I'm going to do for this project is I take some decorative nautical rope from Dollar Tree and I cut a chunk of it off, and then I hot glue it to the back of my project so that I can hang it. I hope you've enjoyed watching these DIYs. If you're new to my channel, my name is Jamie and I thank you so much for being here. Please hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Y'all have a wonderful, blessed day. Bye!